Welcome back to That's So Nourishing. I am hot off our trip to Spain and damn, it feels so good. It was so nice to be back on the road, to be traveling again, to be in Europe. I feel so refreshed, so rejuvenated, just so alive and ready to take on the world. If you missed the last few episodes, we were just traveling in Spain, and it was our first trip with our baby, our 14-month-old. He has been on 20 flights, so it's not technically our first trip, I should say, but our first big travel style trip where we were traveling around. And it went really, really well. My parents thankfully came along, which was really helpful. And it just felt so nice to be traveling again, to be out of the country, to actually have time because we had support, which my husband and I, we're full-time parents. We don't have any family or support out where we live. So by choice, we wanted to be fully present parents for our baby. But it was so nice to have that support for my parents and be able to take some time for Cam and myself and to be able to just be out exploring and trying new foods and things and just really taking in all that Spain has to offer. Spain is one of our favorite countries, and so it was just so nice to be back. Traveling with a baby is definitely quite different than what our travels were like previously. If you listen to the previous episodes, you know that my husband and I traveled for 7 years full time while building our business. So we are avid travelers. So it was so nice to be back on the road. And like I said, definitely a bit different with a baby in tow. If you guys want to hear more about that, I would be so happy to record an episode on it. Just let me know. So send me a DM or something and then I can coordinate it. We traveled all around Spain. We went to Seville, Malaga, Madrid, and then we ended in Barcelona for my mastermind. And that's really what I want to share with you today is my takeaways from my mastermind, because as I was going through them, as I was organizing them, I thought that it would actually be really powerful to share with you. Whether you have a business or not, I think that these will be really powerful takeaways for you to take into your life. And I'm feeling so lit up after it that I wanted to pass on the wisdom and knowledge that I was able to integrate there. My takeaways, I would say, fall under two big themes. One is the bigger picture, really seeing the bigger picture of things. And I'll share more about what that means and shifting perspective. And then another of agency, just really taking agency in our own lives. And agency is a principle that I teach. And so there's a saying, the work works you. And this was definitely one of those moments. I had a few big lessons around agency that I'm excited to share. The first thing I will say is get in the room. Getting in the room is something that I absolutely love. I mean, I am addicted to growth, to personal development, to just constantly learning and growing and all of the things. So I always have support in different areas of my life. And so I'm all about getting in the room. I actually would love to host retreats. I used to do it. I would love to start them up again. So if it is something that you're interested in, definitely shoot me a DM and I could see what I can get cooking. But it's so powerful to just be in the room, to be with people in person. So much of that is lost these days while everything is online. And while online has its own benefits and can be really powerful too, there is something for me every time when I get in the room that my nervous system just attunes to the energy so well into other people's nervous systems that it just catapults me to a new level, way more than sitting behind a screen does. For me as a mom of a 1-year-old while running a business, I don't necessarily have the time either to go on certain calls within my mastermind or to engage in the Facebook group as much. And so just being in person really supports me in getting to meet the people there and getting to be around people. We are the 5 people we surround ourselves most with. And so being around people who are all striving, creating big things in this world, it naturally just rises. My own frequency and my nervous system attunes to that. The baseline of my comfort zone from when I'm just going about my day to day gets expanded when I go in these rooms, and I can really feel that every single time. It helps me quantum leap in my lessons, in who I am, in just what I believe is possible. So I'm a huge proponent of getting in the room. And it can also kick some stuff up, some little dirt pebbles, things that we maybe don't want to deal with, but that are really powerful for us to deal with. I know for me, there were definitely certain things that I had thought I worked through that came up for me. And it was nope, you haven't yet. Well, I was in the mastermind for me to really look at. And again, that's the power of being in the room. When we're just going about our day to day, when we're not getting triggered necessarily in certain ways, it can be easy to think that we fully moved past something. But getting in a room, really getting face to face with certain situations and certain things that may activate you in different ways, it's a really great way to get a mirror to then look at the pieces that are really wanting the attention for you to really grow and to free yourself from them. that really leads me to the first thing that I wanted to share in terms of this. I ended up on the last night having a conversation with one of my friends, and something that I said to her, we were reflecting on the mastermind, and I said something, and I ended up having such a vulnerability hangover from it and like the shame around it that when I got back from my trip, which I basically got back a day or so after the mastermind, I gave myself time to just fully process it. I utilized multiple of my tools. I went and had this whole journaling session, and I just really processed everything around it. And I really saw the shame that I was still carrying, and I saw how it was holding me back. And I saw this specific situation from all of these different layers, and was really able to work through the trigger and really able to work through this whole situation and create such an alchemy around it that what came out on the other side feels so freeing. I feel so much lighter because of it, and just like so in awe of all of the breakthroughs that I had because of this situation. You know, sometimes when something can happen and it's so frustrating that happens in the moment, but after you can see exactly why it had to happen and all of the reasons why, like because it happened, then you had this breakthrough and this breakthrough and this breakthrough. And that's what I felt. So I was like, oh my God, thank God this happened, because I journaled all these breakthroughs and ended up having all of these takeaways from the mastermind. And I feel so much better on the other side. I literally feel like I've accessed this whole new level of myself. And I feel like there's just all this sparkle and magic and like unicorn fairy wings. And if you can imagine that, just all of this excitement for what's to come and how I'm showing up in this world. If you've heard my story from previous episodes, you know that I had a really successful business and I burnt out along the way. And I have been spending years rewiring my patterns of being so attached to the achieving and the doing and finding my worth in that and the hustle and the grind. And I have made so much progress in these last 8 years of really working on this pattern. And there were still like a few teensy pieces that we're still operating and we're still like running behind the scenes in my subconscious. And I feel like at this mastermind, I really broke through them. And like what has unlocked after that, it just feels so freeing, so expansive. I'm so excited to move through the world in this way and really see what I get to create from this place. So definitely stay tuned to watch the unfolding. Going back to that trigger piece, I wanted to really share a few things here because one, I think that there can be a lot of stigma around, oh, I thought I've already worked through this. I can't believe I'm still going through this, and a lot of shame. And some of that was coming up for me. And I've actually talked about this in episode 4 where we were talking about obstacles. There's this spiral staircase when it comes to growth. And so at each level, we may access that same lesson, but just in a different way to see how much we've worked through it or to work through it from this angle, from this level of consciousness and this level of growth. And so even though it could feel like, oh, I've already worked through this before, it's like, yes, you have. And now at this level, you get to see how it meets you and what you're a match for here, and then work through it there. And so no shame if you this happens to you. I really wanted to acknowledge that because I know that could be a big one. Like, oh, why am I still dealing with this? I thought I've already worked through this. And that's what came up for me. So I wanted to share that with you. And then also triggers are so powerful. Like the amount that I was able to get from this trigger, I am in awe. I am a big proponent of triggers. I love working through triggers as much as one can love working through them. But I just wanted to share here, when you do have a trigger, to lean in. Lean in, because the alchemy on the other side, if you really lean in and go straight to it, is so, so powerful and so freeing. Oftentimes when we have a trigger, we can just try to direct it at the other person and not really look at our own stuff, or we can try to avoid it and keep busy, or we can create a whole story around it. All of these things, except for actually get to the root of it. When we can actually lean in and get to the root of it, go underneath the story, underneath the protection mechanisms, and actually see where that trigger is really stemming from, wow, what we can access on the other side, what it's trying to show us, and the lessons that are there for us, and the breakthroughs can be infinite. So one of the takeaways I wanted to share with you is just really lean in, because what I got from that journaling session and from just processing all of the things that came up for me was just like magic. And it was almost like if you imagine a Mario Kart where when they go over those just things that make them go so much faster, I can't remember what they're called now, but it's like whoosh. It's literally how I felt. I encourage you to look at the triggers that you have in your own life and see, okay, where am I maybe not leaning in, and how can I lean in and really get with it to see that magic on the other side. Really just go straight into the center of it. And there's so much power there. I'll probably do. I've mentioned this before too, a whole episode on triggers because there's so much that we can really learn from triggers and they're so powerful. So just going to put a little pin in that here too. In terms of the bigger picture takeaways that I was talking about, one that really came through for me, someone led us through this practice and I really dropped in to my womb and just got this download of just really expand. So instead of contracting, just expand, expand, expand. So often we can get so caught in the minutia of what we've already seen, of the past, of what we know, of our day-to-day lives, of the drama with certain people that we have in it, of what has already happened or the stories that we're caught in, that we contract and we limit ourselves so much. And in those times, if we can just expand and expand and expand and just like see how big can we get, that we can realize that those things are not necessary to worry about, that they're so small in actually the bigger picture of life and in really what we want to create here. I can get so caught in that minutia sometimes. And so this was such a great drop in of just, yes, okay, like expand, expand. Such a good reminder of really remembering that there's such a bigger picture here. This is such a minute part of life. You know, even a year in our lives is so small, but sometimes it could feel so big. And so just remembering like, this is just a chapter. This is just a moment. This is just one person. This is just one situation. Just expand, see bigger. Or even when you're thinking about your own goals or what you want for your life, like you're creating them from one place, see if you can expand and create a bigger vision for yourself. In any moment, how can you expand when you notice yourself in a part, in a trigger, in a contraction, when you notice your body like tighten, when you notice your defense mechanisms and your protection mechanisms, right? When your nervous system, like we talked about, is activated and is scanning for safety, when you notice that, can you expand? Can you open? Can you expand in the moment? And this theme of expansion is just so big for me that it really landed, and it can apply in so many different situations. So it's just that constant reminder of when you feel yourself in any of those ways that I shared, expand and see how that can shift the neural pathways, that can shift how you're operating in that moment, that can shift your state, your focus, and really allow you to operate through life in such a different way. So I wanted to share that because I think is so simple and so huge if we can really stay in alignment with that. Similarly, I loved this concept. My mentor, the woman who leads the mastermind, she talked about a disco ball. And I've mentioned before how we can shift our perspectives and what are the glasses that we're wearing. We can shift the goggles and we can see life differently. We can look at it as this disco ball. I love disco balls, so I'm all about this. We had a disco ball at our wedding. I'm obsessed. So if we can just turn the disco ball, imagine a disco ball where it just spins in a room on the ceiling and what that does to the whole room, how it lights it up in a different way. If we just shift the lens of it, we just shift the disco ball a little bit, we can get a whole new perspective. So if we're looking at a situation in a certain way and it's not empowering for us, can we shift that disco ball a little bit and see it from a new perspective? And I thought that's such a fun way to visualize it. And our mind works really well. The subconscious operates in images. So it's such a good way to just apply it to our subconscious to when we're actually trying to shift perspectives so that we actually can do it. You know, sometimes you try to shift a perspective and it's like, yeah, I get it, but this can be powerful because we're just imagining that disco ball, which can actually shift things in our mind. So think of the disco ball whenever you feel yourself caught in some perspective that isn't fully serving you. As I mentioned, I can get caught in things sometimes, as we all can, and we can forget to expand for the bigger picture. And I know for me, sometimes that can happen with relationships. In my previous business, there were some things where there was a bit of a codependent dynamic, or I could feel that if something happened with some person or something happened with certain people, it would devastate me and it would be so terrible when certain things would happen. There would be instances or situations where things wouldn't work out that well, and then it would really, really affect me. And I would kind of grip on or really want that person to understand me or to work with me. And naturally, all of us do. We want to be seen, heard, and understood. And this was just so powerful for me to just zoom out from all of it. We think that these things are so big because they're so big in our life right now and they feel so important and so integral to who we are. But we have not met 99.9% of people that we're going to meet in our lives. So while yes, this feels so big right now and we can feel so connected to certain people, and in friendships or relationships, when they end, it could feel like this whole devastation, which, not diminishing that, it certainly is at times. But it's so powerful to remember we haven't met 99.9% of the people we're going to meet in our life and 99.9% of the world. There are billions of people in this world. You probably haven't even actually like full on interacted with a million, probably even less than that. So there's so many people out there. We get so caught sometimes in this tunnel vision of, oh my gosh, this is what my life is, or these are the people that I'm interacting with, or like this is it. Or even in business, oh, who's going to buy from me? Like all these people think this about me. No, there's 99.9% of people out there that you don't even know who you are. You haven't even met yet. How expansive is that? And that reminder for me is just so powerful. I've just been reminding myself of that anytime I've caught myself limiting myself, or even applying that to my past self who's really felt that in the past, where like really gripped onto certain relationships or been so devastated when they've ended, or I've tried to hold on so hard of just, wait, no, there's 99.9% of people I haven't even met yet. There's so many people out there. And this is so powerful too in just staying true to yourself. Sometimes we can mold ourselves, a lot of times, right? That's what I talk about a lot in this podcast. We mold ourselves to other people, the people who are around us. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. Naturally, it's a survival instinct. We want to belong. And if we can just remember to stay true to ourselves, because out of those billions of people, we haven't even met 99.9% of them. So there's people in there that are going to be just like us, that are going to see us for who we are and love us for that. So even if we haven't found them, the more that we show up as ourselves, the more chance that we actually have to meet the people that we really align with. Whereas if we keep dimming our light and not showing up as who we truly are, or trying to conform to just those around us right now, then we're lessening the chance that we'll actually find the people that really will be just like us, or will encourage us to shine in our true self and shine our whole light, because they're out there. Because there's so many other people. I wanted to share this one because I know so many of us can get so caught up in just what's right in front of us, or just grip onto different things, or can limit ourselves in so many ways. So if we can just shift, use the disco ball, shift the perspective, expand, see that there's 99.9% of people we haven't even met yet. Wow, what can we create from this place? How can we show up in our lives? How can we start to take agency in our lives with that? How can we remove the mask and be more of ourselves? Whoa, right? With this piece too, there was this quote that was shared that I thought was so powerful, because a lot of times we hide when we don't show up as who we are, and we don't say the things we want to say, or we conform because of a small set of people. And we think, oh, because if this person, whether it's a family, a friend, someone we used to work with, someone we know from high school, whoever it is, we think, oh, but they might think this of me, so I can't share this thing, or I can't share what I really want, or I can't really be myself or show up in a certain way. And we make ourselves small because of someone else that isn't even a big part of our lives, or because of one person who's probably limiting their own self, and we really take that on, and then we show up in certain ways and we hide and shrink parts of ourselves. There was this quote that was shared, and I thought it was like so on point when it came to this, and for me it really helped me shift out of this and be like, yeah, why am I doing this? So there's two concepts I want to share when it comes to this. So one was that there's certain people that are always going to look for a reason not to like you. So no matter what you do, they're going to find one. And then there's a lot of other people that the more you show up as you, the more you share what you want to share, the more you just be in your whole essence and your light, you're going to make such an impact on, and you're going to really create connection with. And those are the people that we want to focus on. And I've heard this before, but think about it this way. It's like there's always going to be people who are going to find a way not to like you, or going to find a way to say something about what you're doing, or find a way to shame you, or find a way to make you feel bad. And they're just going to look for it. So if you just accept that, and just say, okay, well, that's just going to happen with them. So why am I focusing on them? Can I just accept that? And now I'm going to focus on all the people I can make a huge impact on, or all the people that I really want to connect with that are going to be drawn to me. And that's how I'm going to show up, right? As fully me. I've caught myself sometimes like limiting myself because I'm like, but this person will probably think this, or this person, people I maybe used to be close to or care about, or things like that. And I'm like, why? And I knew this consciously, but for whatever reason, hearing this and at this event really landed something for me. And I was like, yeah, like they're always going to find a way. And again, I've already heard this phrase before, but when you hear it like at a certain time and it just hits, that's how it was for me. It's like, yeah, of course they're always going to find a way. So why am I focusing on that? Just accept they're not going to like me, or they're going to say something about it, or maybe I'm creating a story about it. But either way, just accept it. And I'm going to focus on sharing what I want to share, what I know is powerful, because that is what's going to really impact people. And that's what's going to make me feel good. And then the right people are going to get drawn to it. And I'm going to really be able to create change. So when we can shift and see that, It can really support us in showing up more as our authentic selves. And again, shifting the lens, shifting the disco ball and the perspective. Additionally, the quote that was shared, I don't want to botch this, so I'm going to look at this here. If you want to be extraordinary, the ordinary will hate you. If you want to be remarkable, you're going to get remarked about. If you want to be credible, you're going to get discredited. And if you want to do something unbelievable, people are going to have disbelief. I thought that was so good. Naturally, people are going to feel this way. There's a law of opposing forces. If you're doing something so unreal, people are going to have to feel the other way about it. So of course, and I thought that was just such a good quote that I want to share. So if you ever want to do something outside the box, or you're doing something that people don't approve of, it's like, well, duh, people are going to have things to say about it because it's out of the norm. If you want to be extraordinary, the ordinary will hate you. You won't be part of the ordinary. And so you have to decide, do I want to be normal and blend in and maybe always be liked and not ruffle any feathers? Or do I want to do something extraordinary? Do I want to live this big life? And only you can decide that. And with all of that is staying in our hearts and moving from this place, noticing when the ego comes in, when it wants to make up stories, when our survival patterns kick in, when we want to stay small, when we want to tell ourselves all the reasons why it won't work, or all the reasons why our life is this way, or all the reasons why we can't show up in a specific way, or all the reasons why we are a certain way, all those things that come in. Can we acknowledge the ego, see how it wants to keep us comfortable, it wants to keep us at our baseline? Even when we have big goals, big visions, we can see how the ego comes in. Can we recognize that? And can we come into our hearts? And can we move through our heart in our life? And from that place, can we see how different things could be? Can we see how much lighter life could be? Can we see how much more love we can have? Can we see how much more a possibility and expansiveness and openness can be there? This is part of what I feel like I've activated even more of in me, is this heart. This heart is like, I remember when I was so in my head years ago when I started doing all this work, and I was talking to this coach I was working with, and she was like, just drop into your heart. And I was like, but how? We keep talking about connecting to the heart, but how? Because it was so in my head. It felt so hard to access and move through this world from my body, from my heart, from this magnetism, from just this feminine essence. And that is what I was talking about, where I feel like I've activated it, like just fully being in that heart, in that flow, which is where so much power is. There's so much heart brain coherence, and so much just when you radiate from your heart, what like the frequency that you operate at is so expansive. I feel like I'm using that word a lot in this episode, but it really is how I feel with all of that. The other set of takeaways that I wanted to share, they kind of all fit under the same bubbles, but is also agency. Because a lot of times in our own lives, we forget that we have this choice. Or even if we know we have the choice and we're exercising the choice, there's one thing between just like exercising the choice and actually like owning and claiming your own choices. And it is so powerful when we can do that, and it gets reflected out so much. And so I had a lot of takeaways from about agency in this mastermind, and a lot of lessons for me when it came to agency. It is, like I said, something that I teach. I teach people to really take that agency in their own lives. And naturally, it's something that I work through as well. There was someone who shared that she had a really big month recently, and she had become a mom 2 years ago. And initially, when she became a mom, she thought she just wanted to be a mom. Like, she stopped her business. She was just a mom for a year. And now she started rebuilding her business again in the last year. And she just had a really great launch that she was celebrating. And she shared how she only works like 3 to 5 hours a day. So I went up to her to talk to her, because I also am a new mom and seemed like she's been a mom for a year longer than me. So I wanted to ask her some things, because I also only have 3 to 5 hours to work a day. And I asked her if she's a full-time parent, and I asked her if they had any help, and she said no. And so I knew she was in my same shoes. So I wanted to ask her certain things. So I asked her what it was like about, just being a full-time parent and how she manages it all while also running a successful business, and all these things, to, just hear a different perspective and a different way someone else is doing it. We had this whole conversation. It was really beautiful, and it just reminded me so much of the agency that we have, because a lot of times we can make these choices and we can just, again, like I was saying, we can forget how beautiful those choices are. For me, since my son has been born, it's been so important to me to be a present parent and to really be there with him and to prioritize him over my business, and to make sure when he's up from his naps that I'm with him and that I'm working, while he's sleeping, and really being that present mom that I always wanted to be. And with that, I have taken a step back from my business in the last year in certain ways. And there's sometimes where I've had a little bit of shame around that, or a little bit of like just stickiness around it. And it just reminded me of, no, oh my gosh, like how amazing is it that I have the passive income, that I'm able to do this and be able to really have the choice and the agency that I have like enough money coming in every month and more to fully live, because my past self set me up for this, and that I get to make the choice to spend every single day with my baby. Like, oh my gosh, how amazing is that? Yes, I don't have all the time in the world to build all the things I want for my business, but that could wait. Like, that I made this choice, and it's such a blessing that I even had this option to make a choice, and I'm so grateful for that. Like, this is the choice that I've made, and really standing in that instead of just feeling like, but I could be further along, I could be doing more. It's like, no, I chose this, and really taking the agency in that was like so powerful for me. Like, I've done this throughout the year, but just like that constant reminder, I feel like it really landed, and like shifting just the whole frame around it, which I've done, of course, and I understand the amazingness that I even have the choice of this over the last year. And sometimes when that achiever part in me, or, when I have such a big vision, there can be this push-pull. And so just that agency of like, no, I'm choosing this, and that there's power in that. And it just feels so good to like really land in that and remove any shame around it, or like, the whole ego death around it, and that identity that we can sometimes cling to. So that is like such a powerful piece of agency that I wanted to share. And I wanted to share that because we forget sometimes that like there's always going to be trade-offs. There's no solutions. There's only trade-offs in our life. And so it's just looking at everything in our life and really seeing we are choosing all of it. And really, there's one thing about choosing it and choosing it unconsciously and not actually recognizing that. And then we can also choose it consciously. But then, like I said, there's this whole other thing about like, I'm choosing this and I'm standing in it. Like, I am owning it. And like, where in your life are you maybe choosing something, but you're not fully owning it? Where do you maybe have some shame around it? Or where do you feel like you should be further along? Or where do you feel like, you're making these stories around it? Like, if you can just fully take that agency, it is so powerful. And so that was such a big shift. And we also talked about like, when it comes to this agency, is it's like, how are you seeing things? Like, how are you defining things in your own life and seeing yourself? For me, for example, I was sharing about how I'd been on this trip and I was busy and I was a bit behind on my Instagram messages, and how I got back to someone and I could tell that they were like a little bit annoyed that I didn't respond to them sooner. But I was traveling with a baby and my parents, and I was on vacation, and we were talking about like, how are we actually seeing this? How are we taking the agency? I already knew this, but like I talked about earlier in the episode, when things just land deeper for you and they integrate even further. And I've spoken about this on the podcast before, is how we see ourselves, how we treat ourselves, how we operate to ourselves in our own life is how other people are going to mirror it. Because if we are doing these things and we're taking these empowering actions and we're taking this agency, but we're not actually standing behind ourselves in it, it's not going to land the same. And so how are we perceiving ourselves? Because there's things that we can do in our lives even when we're taking this agency, and we can feel guilty about it. We can feel like, but it took me so long to get back to this person, or I should have done this differently, or we kind of feel like life is pulling us in these different directions, versus just really shifting the perspective and really making everything for you. Like, so it took me a little bit longer to get back to this person, but I am a mom of a 1-year-old and I'm choosing to be present with him and to prioritize. And so owning that I didn't have the capacity, and now I do, so now I can get back to you. Just owning every single bit of it, removing any of the shame, removing the guilt, removing like anything that takes us out of our power. And what is the story that we are telling ourselves around it? Like I talked about in episode 5, just can we shift the story and tell ourselves the most empowering story for us? And when we can do that, that accesses agency on a whole new level. And the way that we relate to ourselves is the way that the world is going to respond. So this is like a ninja trick here. And if we can just start telling ourselves these empowering stories about everything that we're doing and shift the way that we are seeing ourselves, bam, the way the world responds to us is going to shift so much. So this landed for me on a whole deeper level. And the way I have been operating since has been so like, wow. Just wow. And so I wanted to share this takeaway with you too, because again, there's one thing with like taking the agency in your life, but really owning it is a whole nother way. And just really all of your choices, all of the decisions that you're making, all of it, like really backing yourself and being your own best friend and being your biggest cheerleader and being behind it is everything. And like I said, I've already known all of this and I already do this in areas of my life. And there were areas that still needed support and still needed some shifting and different pieces that I maybe hadn't integrated as much. And so I was just able to really integrate this on a whole deeper level. And it's so just so good, so good. So I wanted to share that here so that you could hopefully, see maybe in your own life where you're not really owning your choices or really backing yourself, and see how that's affecting how other people are relating to you. Because if you start to back yourself in everything that you do, then damn, other people are going to start to back you as well. And again, I can do a whole nother episode on like all of these takeaways. So maybe we'll definitely do one on agency because there's so much that I can say here. Another piece that ties into this agency piece is a lot of times when it comes to business and life, we can take things so personally. If someone says something to us or someone acts a certain way towards us, we really make it mean something about us versus just seeing that, one, it means way more about them, and two, this is just the nature of the beast, right? This is just the nature of life, the nature of the game, the nature of business. This is just the nature of the game and how it works. And so the way that this was framed for me was really transformative. So I wanted to share this takeaway here because I think it could be really supportive for you too. A lot of times I see in business when people are building to different levels of their business, if things happen, they create this whole story around it. If they're trying to build a business and they're getting a lot of no's as they reach out to leads and sales, and they maybe make it mean that they're not good enough or that they're not cut out for this and they shouldn't do it anymore. Or if they reach a certain level of leadership and people turn on them and there's a lot of drama and projections that happen and that it means something about them and they're a bad leader. Or in life, if a friend turns their back on you, it maybe means you're a bad friend. Or if just everything falls apart, it means something about you and that you weren't worthy of it. We create all of these stories around it. But ultimately, if we can just look at it all as this is just part of the game. This is just how it works. And it's just something we're signing up for when we decide that we want to take part in life, when we want to take part in business, when we want a great life. It's just how it happens. So if we can just normalize all of it and not make it mean anything about us, it's just part of the game. In business, for example, when things happen, when you're leading teams or you're coaching, when all those different dynamics happen, it's not personal. It's just literally people are resisting growth or people are projecting onto you. And when you're getting a lot of no's, it's just building your capacity to hold what it takes when you start getting those yeses and to build your skill sets. And in life with friends, it's just, again, removing the people that aren't really meant for you and helping you see where your lessons and your triggers to lean into to grow. And when your life is just blowing apart, it's just creating space for what's meant to come. So with all of it, if we can just take the emotion out of it, take the personalization out of it, and just see it all as this is just part of the game. It's just part of it. It's just part of it. We don't need to attach ourselves to it. How freeing is that? And how much permission does that give us to actually go after our dreams? A lot of times this is what can hold us back, is these dynamics that we have with other people. How much more lighter do you feel that you can actually create the life that you want, that you can create the business that you want, that you can not make everything mean so much about you and judge yourself and put yourself down and shame yourself and all these spirals that we go into. It's just, this is the game. Let's just take the emotion out of it. And that was a really big one for me to hear. Again, like I said, with all of these, I've dealt with them before. I've heard all of this before. So you might have as well, but it just all integrated for me on like such a deeper level. And like, I feel like those final clicks in it really took hold. And it's just been a really powerful shift that I've been experiencing since with all of this. So look in your own life. Like, what have you taken to personally? What have you really made something mean about you? And maybe where have you taken a few steps back because of that? And how can you just look at it as this is just the game? This is normal. Like, of course this happens. My mentor who was sharing this, she's created a $10 million a year business. And she said people sometimes ask her, like, how has she done it when these people have turned on her, when all these people have said these different things? And she's like, because I just see it as normal. Like, this is just part of the growth. This is just what happens. So when we can just start to see it as normal, this is just what happens. Oh my gosh, how that can just be such a weight lifted off of us. What are you personalizing in your own life that just doesn't have to be? That's just not really about you. This is why when we talk to people about what we're going through, about what we're experiencing in life, and we actually start to see, oh, wow, I'm not so alone. This is just par for the course. This is just what happens. It can be one of the most freeing things to just illuminate the stuff that people aren't really talking about, to illuminate it, to realize, no, this isn't just me. This is just a rite of passage. And so if I just see it as a rite of passage, then it just helps me move forward instead of holding myself back. The last takeaway that I wanted to share that I thought would be really helpful is really making decisions from your future self and really seeing your future self in a new light, in a sense. And I say this because I'm sure most of us have heard of the future self concept, and we relate to it in some ways. We maybe operate from it a lot, or sometimes we do for a little bit and we forget, or whatever it may be. But ultimately, when we're making decisions now, it's really important that we think about our future self and what our future self wants and what we want to be like in the future, because otherwise we're going to get to that future version of us and we may not have what we want, or we may just be at the same place we're at in life, or we may feel the same way. And, in the present, it can feel like, oh, I don't want to do this thing right now, or, oh, I don't care about that, or whatever. But then when we think about, wait, but if I don't actually take the steps to get to where I want to go, then in a few years from now, and if I'm still here, am I really going to be satisfied? Am I going to be happy? And if not, then we should really start to look at our future self and see how our future self wants us to show up. And the reason why this principle was so powerful for me when it was shared this time is because, as I shared earlier, and in multiple episodes, I ended up getting really burnt out in my business. And I really had to do a lot of nervous system work to even get myself to want to show up again and to really get myself, to trust myself to show up in a different way, to get lit up about really striving towards goals again and shift my whole relationship and association and all of these things. And so sometimes I can catch myself when there's certain things that I could do for my future self and for the future being like, no, I was so goal driven and achievement driven and hustle and striving and all this, that no, I just want to be present. I'm supposed to just be present now and be in the moment and not actually be doing the things to get me to my next level or to get me to my goals or whatever it may be. I'm actually just supposed to be present here. And while yes, that is true, what this really did for me was see, wait, but if 3 years into the future, I'm still right here in this same place, would I actually be happy? No, I wouldn't be. I have big goals and dreams for where I want to be in a few years. And so that was really a big one for me because yes, I don't need to do certain things. And yes, it is important to be present. However, there are actions that I still need to take because I want my life to look different in 3 years. So think about that for your life. What do you actually want it to look like? And then are you making decisions from the party that maybe doesn't want to, from your ego, from the resistance? Or are you thinking, no, what do I actually want to create in 3 years? And okay, so what do I need? Or in 10 years or whatever it is. And what do I need to do to get there? Who do I need to become to get there? For me, this was so huge because it can be so sneaky in the fact of, no, I just need to be present. I need to not hustle, not do those things. And from this, but it's well, why does doing something have to feel negative, right? Why does the association that I have with doing certain work feel icky or feel like it's a bad thing? It's how can I, I was saying in the beginning, open, expand, be in my heart, approach it lightly, see it like a disco ball, see it as fun, joy, and approach it through this way and still be present. Why does it mean that I'm not present? I can still fully be present in my life while doing these things that are going to get me to my future self. And so shifting that association was such a big one for me because how we're associating things is then going to dictate the actions that we take. So this was a big shift for me in my associations when it came to how am I showing up now to actually get me to my future self. When you are sitting down to do a task or when you're resisting a task or when you think about what it is that you have to do for today, think, well, what does my future self actually want me to do? Maybe my current self thinks this is important, but is this what's actually going to move the needle? Or is this just keeping me busy like we talked about in a previous episode? Or is this just kind of feels good right now, but it's not actually the big thing that's going to get me to my future self? Or am I resisting right now for my present self, but what do I actually need to do for my future self? And that can be a really, really big shift. It can really shift things from discipline to devotion because I'm devoted to that future version of me. My boss is my future self. That's what's gearing me forward. That's what's gearing me to where I want to go. And that can really shift, create a whole new lens for how we operate and can move a lot of the heaviness or a lot of the resistance or the stories we create around it. So I wanted to drop that takeaway here as well. As you can see, I really got a lot from this mastermind. These were the key takeaways that I wanted to share with you that I thought would be really supportive for you. Whether you have a business or not, these are just really powerful things that we all deal with within life. And like I said, I could probably do a whole podcast episode on each of them, and maybe I will, but I just wanted to touch on them here so that you could really see which ones really resonate with you that you can take into your own life. Because even just applying one of these shifts and one of these takeaways can really shift your life in a lot of ways. Like I've said throughout too, you might have heard some of these. I know I had heard a lot of these concepts before and I operate with them in my life. However, like I said, there's always a new level and a new piece of integration. And also I feel like I was able, because I've heard all of these concepts before, and because I already operate in this way in my life, it helped me to just really integrate them on a whole deeper level. And it really activated this new level within myself. So even if you have heard them before, again, see, how can I integrate this more? How can I see this differently? And see how you can apply it to your own life. I hope that you got a lot from these shares. It was a bit vulnerable for me to share some of these takeaways. I hope that it really was supportive for you and that you can use them as a reframe for how you show up in your own life, or you can start to look at different situations in your own life and say, wow, if I actually see it this way, maybe it would feel way more empowering. Maybe I could really see my agency. Maybe it could actually create a new story around this situation, one that actually empowers me. Maybe I can shift the disco ball and shift this perspective or expand around this concept in some ways, or lean into this trigger. And through all of that, free yourself even more. Unravel the conditioning keeping you stuck. Peel back the onion of all this guck in blocking you from who you truly are, and be able to just really ground in to who you are, find that agency in your life, and just be lit up by your life, moving from your heart, fully nourished, removing that shame, just taking out the personalization, seeing all these things as normal, and just owning all of you. So with that, I would love for you to message me and let me know how this episode resonated with you, what these takeaways really did for you, how they served you, which one maybe lit you up the most, and let's get nourished. If this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love if you could like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and leave a 5-star review as well. It is my mission to support as many women as possible in truly coming back to themselves, rooting into who they truly are, and ultimately become nourished in all areas of their lives. I would absolutely love for you to join me on that mission and help spread this podcast to anyone who you feel that it would be supportive for. Also, it would mean the world to me if you could reach out to me on Instagram. My handle is in the show notes, and let me know how this resonated with you, what you are loving in the podcast, and what you would like to see more of as well, so we can deepen the relationship over there. If you'd like to take these principles deeper and really embody them on a next level in your own life, I invite you to join my email list. The link is in the show notes. I will be emailing you each week. I host live webinars digging even deeper into these concepts and how you can practically apply them into your own life so that you can fully become lit up by life, nourished in all areas, and really embody all of the principles that I share here on this podcast. So again, the link is in the show notes to join. I would absolutely love to have you on there. I provide a ton of value on my list, different practices you can do each week, the webinars that you can tune into, and a lot of other fun goodies as well. And you'll be the first to know about podcast episodes too. So again, hop on over to my email list so that I can fully support you even further, and let's get nourished.